everyone, welcome to Knowledge Hub by Sri Chaitanya video sessions. This is Sushmita, Senior Mathematics Lecturer. So today we are going to discuss the topic Mathematics Analysis of JEE Mains Phase 1 2024. So this is a common emotion among all of us that the paper was lengthy, right? So let us discuss about the Phase 1 paper to understand and improve for the Phase 2. Let's talk about the overall analysis of the paper. So here comes the entire major topic-wise analysis and how many questions asked in each one of the topics. So we have divided calculus, algebra, coordinate geometry, vectors and trigonometry. So out of the 300 questions of all Shift 1 Phase 1 papers, calculus is having the most weightage with around 100 questions. You can understand the importance. Next comes the algebra with 90 questions and the coordinate geometry as well as vectors and 3D geometry. So these two topics are also having almost equal weightage with around 40 questions you can see. Then finally, trigonometry has around 12 questions. So this is an overall analysis. By this you can understand which topic is having the maximum weightage. So according to this we can plan the phase 2 discussion also. So first of all, let us discuss. With this overall analysis will not get any idea. So we need to discuss subject wise or the subtopic wise we need to discuss. So let us go subtopic wise in each one of the following topics. Okay, now let's talk about the chapter wise analysis for the calculus. So in calculus, if you look at the chapter wise weightage, how many questions asked in each one of the topics. So definite integrals standing in the first position with how many? Almost 22 to 23 questions asked in all the shifts. So around 2 questions were asked in each paper. So you can understand the importance of definite integrals. Then comes limits, continuity, differentiability. So limits, continuity, differentiability also is having a weightage around 18 questions. In the next topic, if you see differential equations. Differential equations also has the more weightage. Next, applications of derivatives and integrals. So this is nothing but area under the curve. So area under the curve, AOD also has almost equal weightage of around 12 questions. So 12 questions are asked. Then comes functions, relations. Functions and relations also has same weightage of around 8 questions and 11 questions. You can see that. Relations is one big chapter where one question is asked in each one of the shifts. Then coming to derivatives, indefinite integrals and sets. These are a little bit less weightage I can say. So indefinite integrals also very less, few questions were asked, sets a very few questions. So this is a chapter wise analysis. If we understand the chapter wise analysis, we need to understand the subtopic wise analysis also. So for example, definite integrals is there. 23 questions were asked. So which topics they touched? Which topics we need to focus for the phase 2 to improve? So let us see the subtopic wise analysis, you will get an idea. So now let's talk about the subtopic wise analysis. Coming to the definite integrals. So definite integrals, as you can see that King's property, wherever you see, King's property is the one big topic where most of the questions were asked. So in each and every question, King's property application was involved. So you need to focus on King's property. And remaining questions were focused on even, odd functions. Then coming to the limits. Limits, continuity, differentiability, let's take overall chapter. In limits, L'Hopital's rule is asked and Newton-Leibniz rule, which is actually deleted, but the questions were asked in 2 shifts, 2 questions were asked. So now, continuity and differentiability. If we talk about that, most of the questions are piecewise questions, piecewise functions, I can tell you. In those, what is the continuity of those functions? What is the differentiability of those functions? And which type of functions are asked in that? So the questions were related to inverse trigonometry or trigonometry, and step functions were also involved. So that was the case with limits, continuity and differentiability. Let's talk about differential equation, which has the next weightage. So in differential equations, LDA, you know that it is very important. But this time, most of the questions were asked related to the variable separated, which are easily separated. So you can focus on LD as well as variable separable for the phase 2. Next, applications of derivatives. Maximum number of questions were asked regarding monotonicity, increasing nature, decreasing nature of a function. You can focus on that. Maxima, minima topics also. Coming to application of integrals, area under the curves. One question per shift, completely it was asked. So which type of curves were covered in application of integrals? So the curves are related to circle, parabola and straight lines. So these related areas you can practice. Next, coming to functions. In functions, there are a lot of varieties of questions that are asked. Now, most of the questions are from finding what is the type of function, like whether it is into function or onto function type of questions. Next, functional equations and composite functions. This time, composite functions were also asked in major way. Then coming to the number of functions and domain. Number of functions were also asked. And here the important thing is domain of inverse trigonometric functions and logarithmic functions. So these two were paid importance. In 2 to 3 shifts, only inverse trigonometry and logarithmic questions domain was asked. So that is the case with functions. Now let's talk about the relations. Relations, if you look at, this is one interesting area. Same type of question is asked in all the shifts. So what is that question? Just giving one relation with what is the type of the relation. So that is the only question asked in all the shifts, which is constant. So this is one definite question we can understand. Next, indefinite integrals and sets. Okay, indefinite integrals. This chapter was having a very less weightage, but even those 1 to 2 questions, whatever they asked, the questions were related to trigonometry. So you can understand the trigonometry indefinite integrals. Then sets, there are very basic questions asked regarding the Venn diagrams. This was having a very less weightage. So according to the weightage and subtopic wise, you can focus on each one of them separately. So this is the analysis about the calculus for the phase work. So next, according to the weightage preference, next comes the topic algebra. So in algebra, what is the chapter wise number of questions asked? So let's have a look at that. So most weightage question, most weightage chapter in algebra is sequence and series. How many questions were asked? So 2 questions per paper was asked. It was highly important. So overall, around 20 questions. 10 shifts, there are 20 questions. You can blindly understand. So we'll talk about the subtopics later, but understand the importance. After that, complex numbers, binomial theorem. Complex number also, as you can see, 1 question per shift was asked. Binomial theorem also, 1 question per shift was, it's the definite questions. And determinants also, it is being asked. Almost 2 shifts, there is no question related to determinants. Rest all shifts, determinant question was also there. And matrices, there are some 2 questions in some shifts, and rest all shifts there is 1 question related to it. And probability statistics. So statistics is one topic I can tell you. So there is almost 1 question in each and every shift. So this is also having a nice importance in the paper. Next, coming to the permutations, combinations. Permutations and combinations also, almost, there are some shifts which did not even ask any question related to permutations and combination, but most of the shifts were covered. Quadratic equations, you can see, some shifts, they did not even cover any question. Then coming to logarithm. So this time there were very few logarithmic properties based questions also. You can see in 1-2 shifts that is being asked. So this is a chapter wise analysis. So if we go to subtopic wise analysis, we'll get a more deep idea. So let's talk about the subtopic wise analysis first. Here. So first one, sequence and series. So in sequence and series, 2 questions per shift, as I told. So here, in those 2 questions, what are the topics covered in the sequence and series? So as you can see, AP, GP, sum, AGP to the surprise. what is the importance here is AGP is deleted from the topic, JEE Main Syllabus this time. But the questions were asked. You have to pay attention over here, because deleted syllabus also questions are being asked. So you have to even practice the questions related to AGP. Then, complex numbers. Most of the questions are related to modulus properties, and some questions where just by substituting z equals to x plus iota y, you get the solution. This type of questions were asked in complex numbers. Next, the next weightage topic is binomial theorem. So you can expect the questions from binomial theorem are mostly related to the coefficients, and also properties of coefficients were also asked. So these are one good questions where you can understand that definite questions will be coming from binomial theorem. And in one of the shifts, reminder questions were also asked. So this is about the binomial theorem. Then what about the determinants? Determinants you can check as well as matrices. Overall put together, the questions maximum they are related to inverse, adjoint, transpose and evaluation of the determinants. These are the major topics that were covered, and characteristic equation is also asked in matrices. So these topics we can focus for the phase 2. Then probability is one topic. Bayes theorem related questions were asked, and rest of the questions are not bounded questions. We can understand they are related to a basic probability. So different types of cases were asked. So we cannot tell particularly this topic is covered in probability. Other than that, Bayes theorem you can focus. Next, coming to statistics. Preparing statistics is one good idea, because most of the questions asked in statistics are related to variance. As we have seen, one question per shift was asked in statistics, and that one question is related to variance in all the shifts. So you can understand, if you read the variance related properties, that would be helpful. And somewhere in one shift, they even asked median, what is the median for a particular data? So even that question was asked. Else most of them are variance. Coming to permutations and combinations. Permutation combination is same like probability. No particular topic, but I can tell you a basic questions related to factorial notation, NCR, NPR relations. So those type of questions were asked. And arrangement related questions. They are very basic arrangement questions only. So nothing difficult was involved in permutations and combinations. Coming to quadratic equations, even though less weightage, the questions were easy. The questions were mostly related to the higher powers of roots. Now when an equation is given to you, the roots are known to you, and the roots power is given as, let's say, alpha is a root of an equation. They asked you the alpha power n. Maybe it is alpha power 11 or alpha power 12. So these type of questions were covered in quadratic equations. Doable, less weightage, but if you get a question, you can answer it. This is how the analysis of the algebra exists. So next comes the overall analysis of the vectors and 3D. Let's talk about, this is very interesting. Why? Because 2 questions per shift is being asked in vectors as well as 3D geometry. This time 3D geometry plane related questions were deleted, but still the weightage remained as it is. Now the questions asked in which subtopics, we'll see that next later. So you can see every shift, two questions minimum. Overall vectors and 3D, if you check, 20 questions in vectors, 20 questions in 3D geometry. 2 questions, short questions asked from vectors and 3D. So you should never skip practicing vectors and 3D even for the phase 2 also. So let's talk about the subject-wise analysis more deeply. Like subtopic analysis. Let's talk about vectors first. 2 questions per shift was asked. Okay, so what are the questions? One question is definitely related to cross and dot product. This time scalar triple product was deleted. So without any other option, the only option was cross and dot product questions were asked. next question was mostly related to area of triangle and parallelogram. So every question was related, or it's revolving around a parallelogram. Maybe it was related to diagonals, angle between the diagonals, or area of triangle, parallelogram. So these type of questions were asked in vectors, and also angle between the vectors. Next, 3D geometry questions. So this time major portion of 3D geometry consists of lines only. So in that lines, which topics were covered? Let's discuss that. So first topic is shortest distance. One short question in all the shifts. Any shift you take, there is one question related to shortest distance. Then coming to point and line and point of intersection of lines. So regarding these lines, there are multiple aspects they covered, like point of intersection, and two lines are given to you. So what is the point and line? Point and line cases, maybe image of a point in the line, perpendicular distance of a point in the line, you have to focus. And when it comes to shortest distance, you should never see it like what is the shortest distance formula. That is not the only formula you need. So regarding, let us say there is a shortest distance line. So what are the points of intersection of shortest distance line with the given lines? And what are the DRs of it? So a small conceptual understanding around the shortest distance is required to answer the questions in JEE Mains. So this is about the subtopic analysis for vectors and 3D. Hope you have got the nice idea regarding this chapter. Do not skip vectors and 3D. So coming back to the next weightage topics that are related to coordinate geometry, complete straight lines, circles, parabola, ellipse and hyperbola. So let's talk about this. This is very interesting to discuss this time because major portion of the syllabus was deleted regarding the equations of tangents. So if that part is cut down, so what is left to ask from coordinate geometry? This is one question we had before writing the JEE Mains. So let's talk about the subtopic analysis also. So this is the chapter-wise analysis. In straight lines, most of the questions were asked, and overall 14 questions were asked. And most of the shifts, 2 questions were asked from straight lines. You can see that 2 questions, even 3 questions were also there in some shifts. And in one shift, there is no question related to straight lines. Overall, it was having a high weightage compared to others. Coming to circles, you can see 1 question per shift it is there. So this is one short questions. Ellipse also, it's not covered in every shifts, but every now and then they are asking. In hyperbola, this time it is having more weightage than parabola. So you can see the difference. In hyperbola, more questions were asked, around 5 in all the shifts, whereas in parabola, 3 questions. In parabola, I can tell you why this much low weightage. It was always related to like combination of the topics were asked. That is the reason parabola itself stands the less weightage. So let's talk about subtopics also. What topics were covered from straight lines? So first, in straight lines, which types of questions are asked? So you can see point and position. So point position means with respect to a line. So where does a point lie? Will it lie inside a triangle, or some same sort of questions were asked? Circumcenter, orthocenter, as you know, these are the mandatory questions in every year. Then angle between lines also. This time, the reason why straight lines is focused more is directly visible, because tangents and all, there is no scope to ask in circles, ellipse and parabola. So this time straight lines was more. Now look at the conic section one. In circle, so there was one thing related to position of 2 circles and point on circle. Position of 2 circles, you have idea. So 2 circles, they are either intersecting or they are staying away. So this type of questions were asked. Then point on circle and shortest distance. Shortest distance is one definite question in every year. If you can see the previous year questions also, shortest distance between 2 curves is being asked. Like for example, a circle and a parabola. So what is the shortest distance between the 2 curves? Curves can be anything, maybe a straight line and a parabola, ellipse and a hyperbola. So this time the shortest distance related question asked was related to circle and parabola. Then coming to ellipse. Ellipse and parabola this time, all the basic questions related to eccentricity, latus rectum and midpoint of the chord. These points they covered because there was no scope in equation of tangents. So this is the subject-wise analysis for the coordinate geometry. So we can prepare accordingly for the phase 2 also. So next, coming to the next final topic, that is trigonometry. So trigonometry we are taking separately because we cannot combine in all of the topics. So separately if you look at the weightage. So in trigonometric equations is having the more weightage. And why trigonometric equations was deleted this time, even though you can see some questions related to equations. So same thing we can expect for the phase 2 also. We cannot neglect trigonometric equations. As you can see, 4 questions overall the questions were asked, right? Next, inverse trigonometry and basic trigonometric ratios. So these are the very simple questions asked from trigonometry. And which type of functions were asked? Let's talk about the subtopic analysis. So in trigonometry, the questions asked were majorly related to tan inverse questions, so and sine inverse and cos, and majorly I told you in functions also. Domain of the inverse trigonometry was involved, and some trigonometric equations were also there, like number of solutions in a given particular interval. So this type of questions were asked, which are very little bit easy to crack. So you can understand the overall weightage of all the topics. Hope you understand each and every topic and the subtopic clearly. So this way, if we analyze the phase 1, it will be easy for us to prepare for the phase 2. So in coming videos also, we'll be discussing the phase 2 preparation, which are having the more weightage topics as per the phase 1. So thank you.